Hello everyone. Welcome to the reading session for Unit 7, Editorial Writing. Contributions for the presentation are made by Vishwas and myself, Ajeesh. Let's see the outline of topics in today's discussion. We'll see what is an editorial, its content and types, how one should prepare and then write for an editorial, the role of editorials in today's changing media scenario. First of all, what is an editorial? An editorial is a leading article that presents the opinion of a journal or newspaper on an issue. It basically reflects the majority view of the editorial board and it is usually unsigned. In simple terms, an editorial can be called as an opinion piece on some development that makes news. Frank Moraes, who was an editor of many prominent newspapers in post-independence India, including the Times of India and the Indian Express, once said, in a democracy setup, when the opposition is weak, it is the job of the press to act as a strong opposition to the ruling party. In that line, we would like to share two examples of editorials that had an impact pre and post independence in India. The first clipping is from the newspaper Daily Kesari, and the editorial is written by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was arrested under the grounds of sedition for condemning the actions of British government. The second one is from the Indian Express, where a blank page was published in place of an editorial as a sign of protest against the emergency declared in 1975. When we talk about editorials, they belong to journals that can be of one or more themes from this list and also based on their periodicity. Then we have newspapers which can be classified into national, regional, and local newspapers. Now let's see a brief history of editorial writing. Before 15th century, newspapers and periodic journals, which are considered the earliest forms of print media, were simply the newsletters that seagoers or voyagers used to write from their ports to their families. Only after the development of metallic types fonts by Gutenberg in 15th century, newspapers came into existence, and thus editorials could not have been written prior to that period. The Quran, which is regarded as the first successful newspaper with a fixed periodicity, carried an editorial in 1702. Along with that, let's understand how editorials evolved to be what they are today. Strictly speaking, in Indian newspaper scenario, editorials evolved with the onset of professionalism. News is segregated from views by professionally run newspapers. When they were initially launched, newspapers were all about expressing views and opinions. They understood that news attracts the reader first, and only then the reader will go for the views or opinions expressed in the newspaper. After that, only they started to establish their prominence. Typical examples of such initial newspapers are these, and then the trend continued well till newspapers like Times of India, etc. Now, let's understand the dynamics between editorial and its readership. Even though editorials are considered to be the most important part of newspapers, their readership is limited to about 6 to 7%, which has been revealed by several studies. That's why we don't see editorials on the front page. We see all the hotty stuff like crime or accidents on the front page, and editorials can only be found deep inside a newspaper. This there can be different reasons behind this poor readership. One of the main reasons is that editorials attract only serious minded people. Newspapers are considered to be the vehicles of public opinion, and thus whatever views expressed in that represent the public. This is the reason why members of both the ruling as well as the opposition parties go for the views expressed so that they can formulate policies that will appeal to the public and thus ensure their victory. Another reason for poor readership is that, based on our personal experience and beliefs, we would have already formed an opinion about something in our minds, and we don't wish to entertain other people's opinions on the same, fearing that they might influence our beliefs. Although this is on the majority side, there are a lot of readers who are devoted to the editorial columns of newspapers on a daily basis. This can be understood by the fact that even after their retirement or demise, many editors have left a deep impression on the minds of readers. Post-independence editors like K. Ramarao, M. Chalapati Rao, etc. are still remembered for their works. And as far as the world of Hindi journalism is concerned, we have Ajeesh, Raghuveer Sagai, etc. Then these are few party line newspapers. Now let's see about the content of an editorial. One thing to be kept in mind is that No two journals will have the same content because of the simple fact that they belong to different thought streams. What are the common features of an editorial? Whatever a journal's policy approach may be, that is reflected in the views expressed in its editorial, and this should be on any important developments that affect the public. This is called the editorial line in professional terms. Then, the editorial should have a persuasive approach to attract the readers and tell them why they should go for the editorial line. This should be made with a rational presentation that will convince the readers, and all this should be done using attractive style and also using a good language. Then these are some additional features that all editorials have. Like any other writings in media, an introduction, body, and conclusion. And if the issue is complex, then a simple explanation so that a layman can understand the issue better. Then, in order to attract readers, editorial will invite a new angle. Say, for example, a health crisis will be recent to lack of implementation than that of policy making. There might be existing policies for that same, but due to some reasons, there are issues at the implementation level. This will be the angle employed by the newspaper to get the reader's grasp. Then, all good editorials talk and discuss only the issues. They never discuss about personalities and they usually refrain from name calling. It should take a proactive approach, that is, not just simply stating the problem, but also giving some kind of solution along with optimism. Then it should end with this resolution that will satisfy the readers, A, by understanding about the subject, and B, by adding to their existing knowledge. We have seen common features of editorials. Now let's see technically what things should be present in an editorial. The following things are generally sought by editors in an editorial. First, the chosen topic should be current and timely. It should be linked to some recent development of importance and it is of common interest. We should ensure that all the relevant concerns of readers are met. Then we should see to that the editorial has some sort of relevance to the catchment area. Catchment area is where the newspaper is circulated and read. Then word limit. The piece should not exceed 500 words. And last but not the least, it should be clearly written and should have a simple and grammatically correct language. When we say relevance to catchment area also, in most cases, languages takes the precedence. Now let's see more about the language used in an editorial. Overall, an editorial's language should be simple, straight, sober, and non-aggressive. There shouldn't be any kind of confusion in the reader's mind when they go through it. We should not use any slangs or outdated expressions. However, in campaign journalism, which political parties use, these norms about language are not followed. The language can be defamatory and aggressive. Similarly, the case is with advocacy journalism, which is mostly used by NGOs. Now let's quickly go through the types of editorials. First, appreciative, where someone or some organization is admired. This type is pretty rare. Then critical, which is more common, where constructive criticism is made. The main motto of such type is to make the reader aware of the problem. Then in interpretative journalism, the readers are explained why the newspaper thinks the way it does. Persuasive editorials will give a positive frame of mind. We have seen campaign journalism and advocacy journalism. Then we have academic and philosophical journals, which are quite self-explanatory. And final type satirical, which is also very rare. Now, before actually writing an editorial, one should go through preparation. And this involves first selecting a topic. We should ensure it's related to something that's recent and it is available in the public domain. Then we should firm up our approach. If you are choosing a public issue, we should know which side we stand with respect to the problem. Then the basic work like good headline and the important sources. Even we can include quotes of people that will support our policy line. And all this should be done keeping the deadline in mind because editorials pose such great importance. It's revised again and again, and this process will take time. Now, the actual writing part. The unit lists a 10 pointer for us to write an editorial. We recommend all of you to go through them thoroughly. First, we should establish the theme with facts wherever necessary. Then we will present them clearly. Say, why is it important? The approach should be rational. We should convince the readers why they shouldn't go for the opposite viewpoint also. Then, using keywords repeatedly will make the readers understand it better. That will come under the language. Then we have thrust. Thrust is something of push, that is to encourage them to think and take action. Again, word limit 500 words. Then, not using first person reference is a style which editorial is always written. Once these things are over, the next two steps will take some time, that are revision and editing. Revision should be done to ensure that the message is clear, and editing to remove any mistakes. Finally, conclusion, where we give a brief summary. When a reader finished reading, it should create an impact in their mind. Now we will see editorials in changing media scenario. This part needs to be more like a discussion where we understand how editorials are treated, say for example some 100 years ago and now. We all know that it's not the same world. 21st century is all about data and information. The information which was considered to be privilege of the elite is now available to all, at least to an extent. We know all the facts and events, but what we lack are comprehension and analysis of such information. In the past, ideology was a guiding light. Now everything can be bought. We have been witnessing serious changes in the way ethical standards are being pursued, the way our culture and behaviors take a shift. End of the day, we must understand that habit of reading it will enrich our knowledge, and that is the one skill we should always rely on for understanding the world better. Let's summarize what we have seen so far. We have seen what is an editorial, the importance of an editorial, its evolution and historical background. Then we saw types of editorials, and we saw how to prepare and then write for an editorial. Then we saw editorials in changing media scenario. We'd like to thank Arul sir for the opportunity and everyone for patiently listening. Have a good day. Thank you.